All right. So yesterday, OKC and Denver played. So I'm not really an awards guy. I've always said I used to have a Heisman vote. I think it's silly. It's too regional. So I'm not really into awards. They don't really very subjective. You know, a lot of these awards have included media members who all have biases. They're, not. I mean, and again, I have biases. Everybody does. Politics, sports, regionalism. Everybody's got that. But I thought yesterday was kind of the, hammer meets nail, SGA, Oklahoma City, I thought wrapped up the MVP over Jokic. And I think Jokic is the better player. But there's three reasons I would give it to SGA. And number one is his team is much better. And they're 12 games ahead of Denver in the standings. And so let's be honest. It does matter how good your team is. How valuable can you really be if your team isn't very good? Denver is a good team. Oklahoma City favored to get to the finals. So the team is better. Number two is SGA is playing with a much younger team. Their average age is only 1 year older than the Auburn. And it's harder to play with young players. Young players, especially on the road, are much less consistent. So SGA's team is better. He's playing with a much less experienced roster. And the other thing is, and this is probably only about 20% of it, SGA is a much better defender. Jokic in their championship year, in that playoff run was pretty good defensively, pretty inspired. He's not a very good defender. And Denver is atrocious defensively. So that matters a little too. And the other thing is words matter. It's called most valuable player. It is not best player. It's not even most productive player. Jokic is more productive, and he is the best player in the world. Now, I think there's a real argument. SGA is either second or third. If you need a bucket, not a lot of guys in the league right now. Right now he's better than Luka because he's in much better shape and he's a much better defender. So Jokic is the world's best player. There's an argument SGA is number two. And again, this is another component. I think OKC and Denver play again tonight. OKC's beaten them 2 or 3 times. And when you watched SGA put 40 burger on Denver, it's something. It's 6%. It's 8%. So remember this about MVP. If MVP was about best player, why does Michael Jordan have only 5? If MVP is about best player, why does LeBron have only 4? If you would have taken every year that LeBron and Michael were the best player, you'd have about 24 MVPs. 22, 20 minimum. They've got 9. Phil Jackson, how many coaches of the year does he have? You have to contextualize it. He had Shaq. He had Kobe in their prime. He had Michael Jordan. He had Scottie Pippen. So I always thought that was ridiculous that, Phil only won, 1 or 2 coaches of the year award. He was obviously a very fair argument. He's the greatest coach of all time. In a very short list of maybe 2 other guys you could argue with, one of them being Red Auerbach. So to me, that game yesterday, and I'm a Jokic fan. I said years ago, everybody gave Embiid an MVP over Jokic. Jokic was a much better player. But everybody kind of felt like, he's already won back-to-back. I kind of feel here is we can keep giving it to Jokic, but SGA is carrying the youngest team in the league. And here's the other thing. His second best player, Chet Holmgren, is hurt regularly. So there are a lot of nights he's babysitting this offense. Jokic has Michael Porter, Gordon, Jamal Murray, veteran coaching staff, not a bunch of kids here. So, Phil Jackson, I'm told, won Coach of the Year once. Here's SGA after the win over Denver in the MVP race.
I love MVPs. I love All-Stars. I love all the accolades that comes with it, but none of it matters if you don't win, and that's where I hang my hat, and I'll be pleased with the outcome tonight because we won.
Yeah, listen, I'm not an anti-Jokic guy. He's the best player in the world. But, again, you could have given Kareem like 8 straight MVPs. Like, a lot of you watching are 20 or 30 years old. There's about an 8-year stretch where, Kareem was stoic. He didn't talk. He wasn't very joyful. He's very much an intellect and academic. A lot of you can appreciate that, but we don't give it. Didn't Karl Malone win an MVP in Jordan's prime? What are we doing? Right? Like, we all know the game here, and it's just Michael's got 5 total. LeBron's got 4. Phil Jackson has 1 Coach of the Year. What are we doing here? So my take is you, not me, you have created that. We gave Russell Westbrook an MVP because of triple doubles, and we felt like it was a good story because KD, jettisoned the Thunder and went to the Warriors. That's okay. I didn't lose any sleep over it. Wouldn't have been my pick, but I didn't lose any sleep. But SGA is carrying a bunch of kids, and Chet Holmgren, his number 2 player, misses a lot of action. There are a lot of nights he's looking at Lou Dort to hit a jumper. I'm sorry. I got Michael Porter. I got Jamal Murray. If Chet Holmgren's out, who's SGA have that is dependable, veteran guy on the road he can count on? He doesn't have a lot of it. So that matters. J-Mac doesn't like it, but that's the way it works sometimes.
I'm just disappointed, man. We were rolling in that first hour. It was popping off. And then you had to put this nonsense out there. Well, Colin, first of all, we kept showing the highlights, SGA. They showed him making
By the way,
three.
Karl
He was
Malone.
2 of 11 from deep. He doesn't play great defense. He's a good defender, never been all-NBA defense.
Well,
this is just like the NFL MVP. The numbers said Lamar Jackson, historic season. But the narrative was, it's Josh Allen's turn. Jokic, by the way, 3rd in points, 3rd in rebounds, 2nd in steals, just had a 30-20-20 game. Historic stuff.
Yeah.
He's got the numbers. The narrative is, SGA, they're young, they're fun, they've won 50-something games. Go ahead, give it to SGA. He's not the best player in the league. He's not.
Karl Malone, my bad, got 2 MVPs in MJ's prime. I thought it was one. Oh, one was MJ out of the league for one? Yeah. They still should have given it to Michael Jordan because the ratings tanked.
I think Kobe has like 1 MVP. He should have more. He was upset Steve Nash got it, remember?
You see it as narrative. I see it as contextualization.
No, it is a narrative. The NBA writers are admitting as much. When Joel Embiid had never won the MVP. We got to give it to Joel. You can't give it to Jokic. It's almost like they're afraid to keep giving the honor to a guy like Jokic, who's been best player in the league right there with Luka for like the last 5 years.
Yeah, again, Kareem was the best player 8 years in a row when I was a kid. When I'm not a kid, but when I was younger, Kareem was the best player.
So give him the MVP every year.
They didn't.
He's the best player.
But the precedent was set. They didn't.
Yeah,
they probably should have.
It's a dumb award.
Well, no, awards are, you see this in Hollywood. You see this in Hollywood where sometimes there is like, we all know that Martin Scorsese's been, along with Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, there are a handful of Cameron, there are a handful of directors that are otherworldly.
And they don't clean up.
And Scorsese, forever, you're like, how in the blank does this guy not have an Oscar? And then he gets an Oscar, and you could argue it's not his best movie. And so sometimes it's okay. I'm still waiting for the Tom Cruise Oscar.
Oh, gosh, come on.
I mean, that's outrageous. That's why I postpone. A lot of people postpone the Oscars because of woke. I postpone for the lack of respect for Tom Cruise.
Put some respect on his name. It feels like the ink-stained wretches are having their moment. We're not giving another one to Jokic. We're not doing it. This guy's freaking good. He's so good.
Yeah, so's SGA. He's pretty good, too.
Meh.
Meh. Meh.